All right, we're going to get started. Thank you everyone for joining us. We are going to start our meeting today. Rich can't be here, so he asked me to kick it off. And so the first we'd like to do is have Maurice has a guest he'd like to introduce. Maurice?
Yes, I'd like to introduce David Tuckerman. David and I have been friends for a long time, and David's a very experienced pilot, ATP rating, CFII, thousands of hours, and just recently bought a real nice Piper M350 and is joining us today because he's getting up to speed with ForeFlight. So that's David.
Thanks, Maurice. Our next part of business is Beth. Beth's from the airport, and she's going to give us a presentation. Beth?
Good morning, everybody. Do you mind hearing the presentation? Just figured it'd be pictures worth 1,000 words, and it's a lot easier to understand what's going on. Okay, if you could go to the next one, please. One of our big emphasis the last couple of years, thanks to a great part, if not most of the part, to Maurice, is going after technology firms that are aviation related, aviation oriented. And as a result of that effort, we've gotten a lot of really good companies that have come into Buchanan Field, and a lot that are now using the Byron Airport for testing for the new technology. And just thought it would be interesting to see some pictures. We have people that are working on drone style, but also taking full aircraft and making them autopiloted, if you will, remote piloted. So it's a really exciting time to be involved, and the level of interest for both airports has just been incredible. Would you mind going to the next one? Thank you. Everybody asks us what's going on as it relates to development, and I just thought this would be helpful to see. The colored areas are the areas that are left over for development, either substantially to be redeveloped because there's small things on them, or the vacant land. Of everything you see here in front of you, the only thing that we have not have under development consideration right now are little, I think it's E and G to the far left. We have the future fars right there, and a part of E, the red. We right now have a 3-acre business park across from our offices that is going through the final entitlement process, hoping to break ground within the next 60 days. D, we are working with a developer. It'll be a non-aviation distribution type use, and they are going through the entitlement process now. It's going to probably take about 1.5 years to get through it. They have to go through a general plan change and go through a lot of other planning details. H, we have somebody who's looking to develop one large hangar, potentially for one of the firms I just mentioned, the tech firms, who's looking for additional space. They're growing like crazy. A is going to be an aviation related development. It's under advisement right now. They don't have any formal plans, but right now they're looking at doing a small office with some large hangars behind it. B is under development as well. A portion of that site is actually going to be used for contractor staging yard for the Marsh Bridge replacement project, which will start in a couple of weeks. About 1 acre of that'll be in use. The developer is looking to develop the back end or the south side of it first, and then move towards the front as the bridge project comes to closure, so they can keep that use there. And C is under the entitlement process now through the city of Concord. It's going to be a self-storage facility. They also are hoping to get their approvals within the next 60 days and then go through the building permit process with the expectation of breaking ground sometime this fall. Would you mind going to the next one? And this, I just thought it'd be interesting. This is the 3-acre business park, what it's going to look like across from our office. And again, hopefully that'll break ground within the next 1.5 months or so. You can go to the next one. Fire station number 9. They are currently working on this now. They have added a joint arrangement with Reach, and they're doing an air ambulance service to it. So they actually were going to be looking at a very small parcel. They ran into some environmental issues on it because it has a lot of wetlands and ditches going through it. So they're now trying to move it a little bit to the north, and it'd be better for them for the aviation because they wouldn't be separated by a ditch. We have to go through, unfortunately, the FAA release process to allow for that. So we're working with the FAA to make that happen. If you can go to the next one, please. Thank you. And again, this is the aviation component that was recently added to the project. You can go to the next one. This is the self-storage facility that's going to be on that parcel on northwest corner of Marsh and Solano. This is the rendering from the seeing it from the highway view. Next, please. And one of our favorite projects, because we actually get to benefit from it, is our new general aviation terminal. That's also going to house our facility as well as our administrative offices. This is the rendering of it. This one is going to be starting hopefully July, August. We're waiting for the release of the FAA dollars. We've retained the contractor and we're in process of trying to get everything towards this. On Monday, you'll see a bit of a change related to it. We're getting a temporary modular unit delivered, and that'll be where JSX will be operating during the course of the construction. It'll be just to the north of the tower for the balance of the next 2 years or thereabouts. You can go to the next one, please. And then this is the 16 acres across from our office. This is the original schematic for it. They're still looking at some of it because they have some wetland issues they're dealing with too. So it might be subject to change a little bit as it goes through the process. Next one, please. And then the Byron. Byron is our little grandchild, if you will. It's about where Cannon was about 40 years ago. It's just now starting to take off, which is wonderful to see. We have 4 projects that are planned. One, or actually 2 of them are under construction right now, which you'll see in a second. And then 2, one is on 36 acres, it's a non-aviation development. That is pending the general plan completion process before that can go forward. But it's been sitting in the willows for about 4 years now, waiting for that process to complete out. Can you go to the next one, please? And to give you an idea, A, B, and C on this development plan is where the 36 acres of non-aviation use is going to be. They're looking at various different things that initial thought was a distribution center, but it's all predicated on the roads and everything else being able to support it. But that's what we're looking at right now. Where you see H on here, that is first phase of an aviation-oriented development. Their focus is on the tech firms. In fact, they broke that up into 3 sub phases, and the first phase is a large and a small hangar, about 3,000 square feet and about 5,000 square foot. The small one is already leased up to one of the aviation tech firms, and then they'll roll into the other phases to complete out that area. And then portion of the H right behind our offices is where the new ARF maintenance facility is going to be going in, and you'll see pictures of that under construction right now. Keep going to the next one. Thank you. So as I mentioned, the ARF maintenance bay is immediately behind our offices. And then where you see phase 1 and the 4-acre aviation, they have broken ground on that. The first sub A phase is under construction right now. They're doing all the earthwork for the entirety of it. And then they have plans to flip when they're done with that one to do another 4 acres behind where we have Skyview Aviation at Byron. And we can go to the next. And this is the ARF bay. It's been poured, ready to go. It's just got to cure, and then you'll start seeing the verticals go up very quickly. Hopefully be done by the end of summer. It's the intent. And this is the phases behind it. As you're looking at, you'll see the round, that's Eagle Court. Just to the right of the open area, that's where our ARF maintenance bay is. And then, as I mentioned, they broke this up into 3 phases. The small hangar at the court and the one larger hangar next to it is phase A. The other 3 is phase B, and then a row of smaller T or box hangars will be the final phase. If you can go to the next, thank you. And that's an overview rendition of what it's going to look like when it's all completed out. You can go one more, thank you. And just again, this is some of the technology that's being tested out at Byron almost daily now. It's really exciting. We've got 2 half hangars that have got tech firms that are in them right now. We got some Conex boxes expecting to store our items in it. Instead, we've been renting those out for the drone companies that are coming out and testing so they can have an on-site presence. And it's really, like I said, very exciting. And thank you, Maurice, for bringing it to us. You can go next. Thank you. I think that was it. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any other questions for Beth before we move on?
Yes, I just have a question about hangars for, there's a hangar shortage. There's always been a hangar shortage. Are there any hangar plans for, small hangars?
We have a couple of firms that are looking at that right now. As you saw, the ones in Byron, that is going to have some small hangar component to it. Buchanan, most of the interest right now is on the larger span hangars. That's what a lot of the people they're talking to that would possibly be a tenant are most interested in right now. But I do have one gentleman who's also approached us about doing some smaller hangars. It just hasn't gone very far, more than a few discussions at this point.
Smaller hangars at Concord, you mean?
Correct.
What about the east ramp? You know, would you folks be open to more hangars on the east ramp? I mean, there's a lot of empty tie downs there that, you know, there's a lot of real estate that could be converted to hangars. Have you thought about that?
We have, and we actually were working with somebody quite a while ago before the economic downturn, and they were looking to do some set on more like a portable style. And that's what we have 2 rows actually at a Byron where people can bring their own in, essentially rent the land and then place it on there. That again, it sort of died because of the economics, but yes, we'd be open to consideration of that for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a question, by the way. Sorry for being late. It's Rich. There may have been a mild discussion of this when you were talking about the west side. Is there a plan for a west side wash rack?
You know, there used to be one many, many, many moons ago. I have not heard of anybody resurrecting that right now. If somebody's interested, yes, we'd be looking at it, but we as an airport are not looking at it. It's not in any of the plans thus far of anybody I've been working with.
Okay, when are you speaking of perhaps of having a formal request come from the various agent organizations out there to request the inclusion?
Yeah, and we can look at that. Like I said, honestly, it's come up over time, but really just a what if or, you know, interest, but nobody's really expressed the desire to do it.
All right. Well,
Okay.
we'll do a legitimate survey. If there's still continuing low interest, there's no point in putting the cap. But who knows if things have changed. That's all.
No, and that's great. I appreciate the help.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, anybody else? No?
Thanks,
Well,
Beth. Thanks very much.
Well,
Thank you.
Rich,
Have a
just
great
real quick,
weekend.
I'd like to underline your and everybody's comments about hangars. You know, I want to be enclosed or undercover too when I finally get my plane out of the shop. And you know, there's a long list that doesn't move very quickly. Just would indicate that there's a lot of interest out there. I realize that the economic benefits and interests are all in the commercial stuff, but you know, the GA guys, you know, I'd like to be counted too, I guess. So, you know, a little investment in some new modern hangars. I don't know what the existing ones look like, but you know, something with lighting and power plugs on the walls, you know, what have you. Someplace when this is all over where we can meet and socialize and maybe grill some burgers. This sounds appealing. Thanks.
Let me ask Beth about the hangars. The county runs the ones on the east ramp. What's the waiting list like over there?
It's a couple of years deep again. And we've explored actually putting in hangars over the years, but the cost of doing business as a government entity, what the price point would be of those hangars when they're done, it would not be affordable to people. So it really needs to come from a private interest doing it. They have a lot more flexibility and are not beholden to prevailing wage and a variety of other things that we are. So to be a better price point ultimately for the end user.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
Beth, may I just emphasize that last point? Some of the construction that Beth talked about, for example, the terminal building, that's funded by a combination of the county and the FAA. But most of the hangars, including the ones on the east ramp that the county now owns, will be, are, or were privately developed.
Correct.
And that's kind of a hard thing to get a private developer to pencil out. So if there's interest, you know, we certainly have to know about it, you know, and Norm, you're in the real estate business. Maybe.
Yes, well, I mean, I think hangars would pencil out, but you know, you can't be paying too much for the land lease, you know.
Well, that's part of it.
That's part of the economics there. So there has to be, you know, the county has to, I guess probably many moons ago when the East Ramp hangars were put in with Garthwaite, you know, I guess the land lease was a affordable rate. So it just needs to be an economic rate again to, you know, I mean, if the economics are there for the county and for the private developer, it has to work out for both sides, basically, you know. So, yeah, that'd be a good,
And I would
that'd be a
like to
fun
point out-
project.
I just think it's helpful to know we do pricing for leases based on the type of use, and it's not one rate fits all. And hangars, especially smaller hangars, will be at a much lesser rate than executive hangar or larger hangars. We do that intentionally as a way because we know our bread and butter, and if you will, our emphasis is on general aviation. So we want to try to promote that to the extent possible. But your point, Norm, is very well taken, and it really does take the private interest and their ability to put it all together and make it, you know, make some money at the end of the day. And whether or not they can do that entirely right now with the environmental and all the other things that go into it, it's tough.
Hey, Beth, I'm sorry. Would you mind if I ask you sort of maybe a pointed and difficult question? And feel free to decline to comment.
Okay.
Maybe you could just kind of explain to me, because I mean, it's not obvious or intuitive to me. Where's the business value long-term in the terminal? And I say this because, you know, we don't have any of the major airlines coming in here anymore, and small ones come and go with the wind and the economy. I'm just wondering, you know, how do we, you know, what's the assurance that 5 years from now, what is it, JSX or whatever, you know, you didn't have to repo their airplane, you know, because they couldn't pay their gas bill or whatever else. Now we've got this nice new terminal that, you know, I keep thinking of Tahoe. You know, years ago they had a terminal there, but no one was, you know, coming in, you know, baggage handlers. I'm just wondering, so where's the economics in that? Just because I don't understand. And if you tell me the FAA is sending us a big check and it's, you know, really cost effective for us, you know, that's a decent answer. So.
It's a combination of that last point. The FAA is making a lion's share investment in it, so the local share is much lesser. We're waiting to get the final numbers now. But the economics also is to the future more than anything. I've been attending what's called Jumpstart last couple of years before pandemic, and all the airlines realize that the major airports around us are going to reach capacity at some point, and because of environmental reasons, they're not going to be able to expand. It's going to be impossible. And just to give you an indication, I went out 2 years ago to Jumpstart, and Southwest, I put in a marker to talk with them, and all the airports that they were looking at, no, they never gave anybody else a look. But I got them 2 years in a row, and not two principals, but three principals to sit down and talk. And they're looking at their 5 to 7 year plan, probably 7 to 9 years now because of the pandemic. But they recognize, and are the first to say, we need to have a position somewhere in the East Bay beyond Oakland because it's not going to be able to operate there. So there is a lot of interest out there. You know, again, it's going to be the economics greater that'll drive parties to having to use airports like ours a little bit more remote, but that will happen. It's just a matter of time. So we want to be prepped and ready to be able to take advantage of that. And we also continue to talk with smaller providers too, because we know JSX, we're very happy to have them, but you know, things could change. And we're looking at all options to try to keep as much activity coming to the airport as possible.
So between noise abatement, the lack of an ILS, and you know, the fact that, you know, like, well, just Southwest, for instance, is running 737s, you know, solely. I mean, are those viable answers for this airport?
In today's configuration, no, but we got time and we recognize what's needed. We've had enough discussions with parties on what they need to make it work. You'll probably be seeing, hopefully year after next, a master plan process starting again for Buchanan. And one of the bigger components, and it's going to be looking at extension of runway. That's going to have to be something, if it's going to ever happen, that's going to be a basic first step. And that'll be part of that discussion through the process.
Well, you know.
Okay, Mike,
FedEx, UPS.
Mike,
sorry,
Mike,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Mike, I gotta cut it off because we're running out of time here, and these are extended policy discussions. Okay, so I'll have to ask that we move on at this point for everybody.
Rich, can I
Okay,
Maurice here, can I just thank Beth again, and Mike?
please.
Everybody else, please come to the AAC. That's the right place to talk about all this.
And Mike,
Right.
also give me a call if you want to talk more directly too. I'd be happy to do so.
Okay, great. Hope she has anything she wants to report in the money world. She's muted.
I'm sorry, you're talking to me?
Report. Very boring.
Nothing to report? Okay, very boring. Right, waiting to figure it out. Okay, then we have a combination of farm and oil sale. Which of you two want to jump in?
Okay, I didn't catch that. My bandwidth is low, but basically oil pickup is going to be today at the MDPA clubhouse between noon and 1 p.m. And if you can't be there,
Okay.
then call me on my cell phone, which is the cell phone's on that email you got from the email system.
Okay. Want to add, besides your gracious ability to induce Norm to take this on? Maurice? Fargo?
Maurice is muted.
Is
Yes.
is
Fargo.
Maurice muted?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I missed the question.
The question was, I had asked for you or Norm to talk about the oil delivery program, and I was wondering if you wanted to add anything other than your gracious thanks to Norm for having been induced into taking over this program.
I have nothing to add, and I repeat my thanks to Norm for helping out. That's a very important program for us, and he's already doing a great job.
Okay, great, good. All righty, and then there was one other item on a link that came from you, Maurice, in an email a little while ago. Maurice? Gone again.
Yes, sorry, we're having some problems here today. I'm multitasking. Rich, can you ask the question?
Right, there, you had two items in an email that you got out today.
Oh, yes. That
One was oil delivery.
yeah,
The other one.
introductions, and we already did that. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, great, good. We're good on that. Okay, Ryan, are you, I'm gonna do what the hell were they thinking, but I just want to make sure that you were ready.
I'm ready when you're done.
Ryan?
I'm
Rich,
ready.
your bandwidth, Rich, your bandwidth is tough. We're hearing everything. I think you're not hearing everything, but yeah, Ryan is ready when you are.
Yeah, Rich, your bandwidth is a little laggy. You're kind of cutting in and out.
Okay, yeah, I am a prisoner of 909 land, which is another way of saying being stuck in a hotel in Riverside County. So I tell you what, I'm going to skip my segment this month until I can be in a place where bandwidth is good, because I've got photographs also, and it's not going to make sense without having a competent amount of bandwidth. So Ryan, just go ahead and jump in.
Sorry about that. I was trying to find my screen change once I shared and I couldn't find the mute button. So can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right, cool. So today we have a continuation of the first presentation that I did. And I'm going to throw quite a few other features out. We're going to do a few IFR tidbits and things like that. So without any further ado, I'd like to start with some training tips. I think it's important. Obviously, we have a safety-minded focus here in aviation in general. And one of the most important things that I think with any equipment, especially something that has this many features and is this complex, is to practice with it before you use it in real life, especially in IFR situations, etc. So first and foremost, practice on the ground with ForeFlight. You can pretty much do everything that you can in flight on it, and chair fly a flight. And the only thing that isn't going to happen is your GPS bubble won't move and your instruments won't react and you won't have your artificial terrain. But all the other features are still active. So really practice with it on the ground, get your lay of the land out with it and know where to tap which buttons to tap to get things up quickly, and be proficient with that before you actually use it in flight. Heads up during flying, obviously we don't want any mid-airs, and especially during taxi, we don't want runway incursions or hitting hangars or anything like that. So if you're practicing in the plane, make sure you have either a CFI or a safety pilot, or if another pilot is flying, take the opportunity on a lunch flight to mess around with the iPad and use it in flight in that sense. Another training point that I thought of recently is to train with own ship off. And so can everybody see my big mouse that I was taught how to make bigger?
Yes, we can,
Hopefully.
Ryan.
Okay, cool. So if you go down to more down here in the bottom right corner, and then settings in the top right, and you scroll all the way down, you see right here, it says enable own ship. And you can switch that from always to never. And what that does is, if you look at my map now, that blue dot right here is where my GPS location was, but it's no longer the blinking pin. So it's now removed my active location from the map. So we can go back there to settings and turn that back on, and you'll see it reappear right there. So that's something that's important, because what happens when the GPS system fails? What happens when your Stratus fails, or whatever GPS? If you don't have an iPad with no GPS inside of it, you're not going to have a GPS location. So you need to be able to visualize yourself in space, both on taxi diagrams, on ILS approaches, all of that stuff, and on your sectional as well. So basically that would equate to a digital version of old school charts with no location reference. So make sure you train with that too and stay proficient. And the other thing that you can do to really maintain your proficiency is use this with a flight simulator. I know our corporate sponsor, DeWitt, has a Redbird simulator, and you can sync the iPad with that, and it shows up, your airplane shows up on the iPad, and everything works just like you're flying. I've actually used it in his simulator before, and I'm pretty sure some of the home simulators like Microsoft Flight Simulator and WingX can also do it, but I don't use those, but I've heard that they can do that. So just some food for thought about getting some practice in with this stuff before you actually take it to the real world. So the first thing we'll kind of go in order. We'll do a little flight plan, and then a few in-flight features, and then some other features that kind of tie in. So first we'll do a flight plan from Concord to Reno. So we'll hit the flight plan button up here, and I'm trying to use both hands here at the same time to control the mouse and the iPad, so bear with me. So we can just type in the flight plan if you already know what you want to do. I already kind of mapped one out. So just so you see, we type in KCCR. We'll just hit the space button. That makes that waypoint active. And then we can type in rejoy. And this is going to be kind of IFR based, but you can apply the concepts to VFR as well. If we want to add any Victor or Tango airways, you just simply type in the airway number, and then it adds it. Let me zoom out here real quick so you guys can see it be built. So when we typed in Victor 6, it automatically put it in. It goes all the way over to the East Coast because we didn't get an exit point yet. So as soon as we put in our next point, which we will make SAC, you'll see it exits the airway and it stops it at the SAC VOR. And you can type in Victor 392, and then it adds that on. And then we can we'll just leave the VOR out of it and type in Reno. And then that is our route, and we can double check it by looking on here. ForeFlight is nice to us. It gives us our airways labeled, and it also puts our MEAs and our MOCAs on there for us for easy view. And in the top left up here, you can type or tap the arrow VFR button, and you can go down to the VFR low chart, and we can tap that, and now we have our IFR chart up, so we can overlay that and see all the IFR magic instead of the VFR map. So obviously we probably wouldn't want to do this route in a single engine plane over the Sierras in icing conditions with clouds, but we're going to use it for example. So if you notice, every airport on the flight plan, I have center lines enabled on here. So extended center lines. So it's nice if you're, especially if you're flying VFR, to get a view of where you're going to intercept. And if you tap on that runway at the top of it, right where it says 19er left here, this menu will come up on the side and it gives you all the information about the runway, lights, slope, etc. And I think we covered this last time. I just wanted to retouch on it, how helpful that is. And then at the top, if you click select runway 19er left, it will actually give you, what happened? For some reason, it did it the other direction. I don't know why it's doing that. Alrighty. Oh, because it's on the departure leg, I'm sorry. So if we go up to Reno and we're coming in and we click 16 right, we can do the same thing at the top and click select runway 16 right, and it gives us almost a vector to final or a straight in approach for there. So that can be helpful. So on our flight plan, when we're coming from Concord, let's say we want to depart on the Buchanan to departure. So up here on the procedure, we can tap that, and it gives us our departure, arrival, approach, and traffic pattern options. So we can click departure from KCCR, tap Buchanan 2, and we wanted to go to Rejoy. So we'll tap that transition, and then it gives us a preview of it on the map. We can add to route. So now that modifies our route, and you'll notice up here, it puts in our transition here in the flight plan for us. And let's say when we were flying along and we want to put in our approach for Reno, we can hit procedure, approach, and it gives us all the procedures for that airport. And the nice thing is it also throws in the important NOTAMs like runway closures, etc. So let's say we want to do the RNAV X-ray for 16 left. We can put that in, and we can choose which transition we want and preview that on the map. And I know this isn't the most logical route, but let's just choose that one for now and click add to route. And now it adds that to the route, and it automatically throws the plate over the sectional or the low IFR chart for you. See what's next. Okay, so one of the other things that is important when planning an IFR flight for IFR pilots is the 1-2-3 rule. So if the weather at your destination airport is forecast an hour before or after below 2,000 or outer below 2,000 feet or 3 miles visibility, we need an alternate. So if we go to flights, and I already put this this route in here. Let's see, close that. For our education purposes, they have what's called an alternate advisor. So let me start that again. So when it comes up, it gives you all the airports in the area that would be viable alternates and gives you what approaches they have down here, how much time it would take to get there, and how much gas. So there's an important lesson to be learned here. Let's say we want to do Reno Stead because it's close enough to use it as an alternate, hopefully close enough to have other weather. But what we want to do when we choose an alternate is make sure that it is viable as an alternate. So if you go to the info button here at alternate, it brings up the airport information. And we can click on procedure. And I use Jeppesen charts, so I'm going to just use that out of simplicity because the FAA ones take longer to choose. or to find this information. If you go down to the bottom, it has it for filing as an alternate. It shows that it's not applicable. It's not, you can't use this airport as an alternate. So it's important that even though the application is smart and tells you that, yeah, Reno Stead looks like a cool alternate, it's actually not available for use as an alternate. So make sure you double check everything that you do in your flight plan, and everything is legal, just because don't over rely on the technology. So another thing you can do, we'll kind of jump back to VFR now. Let's say we'll go clear this route and we'll just go Concord to Rio Vista. What I like to use this feature for, especially if I have somebody that isn't that familiar with aviation, first general aviation flight, etc., you can put the landing procedure with the VFR traffic pattern basically on the map, so the person can see what's going on. Or if it's an area that you're not familiar with and you want to make sure you're doing it right, that's what it's there for safety and to visualize this. So you can click procedure in the top corner. You can click traffic pattern down here, and you can choose which runway you want and how you want to get there. So right now 25 shows best wind. So we'll click on that, and it shows you cross midfield teardrop or direct is the best side because we're coming from the south. So just for example, if you chose straight in, it would give you an illegal pattern entry. If you chose 45, it would route you past there, go up to the, put you on the 45 entry to the right downwind. You cross midfield teardrop, gives you that. You cross midfield direct, gives you that. So if let's say I want to cross midfield teardrop, down here you click add to route. And if you look, it actually imposed that on the chart. So you have a visual representation of approximately what you want to do in that VFR traffic pattern. So I find that useful at times to stay on track with what you're doing. And like I said, especially let a new passenger visualize what's going on. So one of the other things you can do that's very helpful in ForeFlight is called rubber banding. And we kind of went over this last time with the terrain. If you click on your flight plan and then profile, it brings up your side profile, and there's no terrain here. So let's go over to, we'll move this over to the mountains. Or try, hold on. I'll just type in Reno again. So you can see the hills and the route, and you can rubber band this route to where you need to go. So if you tap on the line and drag and then let go, it will put a new point there. And if you look over here, it gives you the potential points. So at the top is the location where you actually drop the pin, the latitude and longitude. This is a user waypoint that I put in, and then you have regular intersection and waypoints. If there was airports nearby, that would be available too. So let's do rubber band over to here in this area. And you can see that there's the GPS locate, or the latitude longitude location, a waypoint, an airport. And down here at the bottom, you can choose to filter what you want to see. So if you only want to see airports in the area, if it's busy, you can do that. You want to see navigational aids, you can click that. And waypoints, you can click that. It gives you the nearest ones. So let's say we wanted to go to Blue Canyon. It will automatically tie Blue Canyon in and add the runway extended lines, extended center lines there. One of the other things that's important to remember on ForeFlight is that when you plan a course such as this, if you go to Navlog, you can see the heading right here. So Concord to Blue Canyon is 16 degrees magnetic, and Blue Canyon to Reno is 58. So if we tap on the line itself, the route line, it will give us information about that. So if you notice on that line over here, it shows our course is 26. This is our heading. So this line actually accounts for the winds that are current. So once again, when planning things like an IFR flight, if you have a departure that says, for example, if you leave between 180 degrees and 270 degrees, you need to do X procedure or fly this heading. If you're relying on this line or this number, you may follow the wrong procedure, because you actually want to make sure it's the heading that you're following on that procedure. You know, obviously each procedure is different, make sure you're following it, but this is going to correct for wins. It's not the same number as that. So don't just click on there and go by that. Same thing with this leg. If we click on there, it shows 58 up here and 59 here. So it's giving you that heading correction. So just be mindful of that. It is a great tool, but you just need to make sure you know what you're looking at. Another really good option is if you tap with 2 fingers on the screen, it brings up a little ruler, and you can move that around. You can make it longer, shorter, and it gives you, let's say from that point to that point, what magnetic heading it is in both directions, how long it is in nautical miles, how many minutes, and how many gallons of fuel. So another important thing to know is this is based on whatever plane you have in the flight plan. So right now I have I think it's a Seminole on there. So if I change it right now, or that time to travel, that would be 9 minutes. If I change that to my Cherokee and then redo it, it shows 11 minutes. So make sure you have the right airplane in there too. And we talked last time about setting up the performance profiles. That all comes into play with these calculations. Another really neat feature, if you're flying along and you want to mark something, you see something interesting, we're going to have to do it where I am currently because I'm not in flight. There's a button down here that's drop pin. So you can tap that and it drops a little green pin there. And over here, we can name it. So we can type it test. And we can enter any notes we want about it. It says what altitude we were at, speed we were at, etc. Let's close this. And then we can save it. So now it labels that test. So if I click on that, I can now click the edit button up in the top right. And you can actually save it by clicking the save button as a user waypoint. So if you look on my map, I have my mom's house here. My house is labeled home. And there's some other waypoints around that I have, Steamboat Acres here. So those are all waypoints that I've saved. So basically, if I click that save button and then retitle it, it turns into one of those user waypoints and it saves it permanently. And I'll show you how to manage those next. So we go into the More button down here, and then Custom Content. And we have our user waypoints over here. So these are all the points that you can create on the map with dropping a pin. The other way you can do it is if I hold down on the map like that. I just made this green crosshair here. Over here, you can see the More button. You can tap More and then Save. And then that would not drop the little green pin, but that would save it directly to your user waypoints, the list that I just showed you. And you can recall that for later. The other cool thing about the user waypoints is you can navigate directly to them by typing in your route. So if I want to go from Concord and then fly over my grandpa, I can type in that and it takes me right to the waypoint up there. You can see that. I'll close this so you can see it better. So you can type in your waypoint names. Whatever you name it is what you can type in your route, and it automatically puts that in for you. Let's see. Let's go to the TAC and the sectional. So if you notice on the sectional here, there's a white line that runs around the top, just like it does in the real one. That's our TAC area. So if we click where the mouse is right now, of course, now it's going to make a liar out of me. Great, not working. I had an issue with this the other day too. All right, well, generally you can tap here. Right now the TAC is up because you can see how detailed and clear it is. For some reason it's not switching back and forth, but generally you can tap anywhere where the mouse is and it will switch from the sectional over to the TAC chart and back and forth. Another handy feature, if you want to see the border of the sectional, like where all the legends are, you can go up here to the gear for settings, and you can go down to map touch action. bring chart to front. And actually that's probably why I did it, because I was screwing with that. So now when I tap it, there we go. So now it's turned on. So that's the regular sectional. Then you tap it again and it goes to the tack. You can also click on that again in settings, and it says map touch action, and you can bring to front with legends. And this was also not working for me. We'll see if it works, but you should be able to tap on the sectional. You can see it's wanting to show the legend like it's a piece of paper laid on there. No, actually it did it. Okay, cool. So this is the tack chart. So you can have all the legends right there, your fingertips, Class B area information, just like you're reading the paper. And you can do the same thing with the sectional, but like I said, for some reason I was having problems with tapping it and it coming up, but that generally will work. We went over that. Distance and time rings are another great thing for in-flight. So if you notice here, right here is a 10 nautical mile ring. And then in here is a 4 nautical mile ring. And then in here, I think is 2. Sometimes it gets clogged with traffic on the inside. Yeah, 2 nautical miles. So I have it set to auto adjust. So when I zoom out, it automatically makes the rings bigger. So now you notice it just jumped to 3, 6, and 15 miles. Zoom out more, it's 5, 10, and 25 miles. Zoom out more, it's 10, 20, and 50. Another cool thing you can do with these is tap on the 25 marker or the 10 marker, just whatever mile marker you see here. Tap there, and oh, it didn't work. So you tap on the ring and then your ring style comes up. So you can do automatic, which is what I had. So it automatically goes to the various different distances, or you can have it set. So I set it to 5, 10, 25, and you now notice now that it does not adjust anymore, regardless of how I zoom. Another great thing that you can do is time. So if you want to know how many minutes out you are based on your speed, let's say you're flying your Citation jet today, and you're flying into Rio Vista Airport, and you have the weekend crew flying in there, and you say you're 5 miles out. Well, maybe the GA pilot won't click that 5 miles is actually like 30 seconds for a Citation jet. So it would help to have your time rings on there. So you can say you're 5 minutes west, 10 minutes west, etc. I would click on that, but because I'm not moving, the rings would actually go away and we wouldn't be able to see them in action. If you click on more down here and you click settings, you can find those rings. Let's see. They're on this menu somewhere, but you can change the distance rings and to time and everything on here as well. Right here. So that's the manual way to bring it up, distance ring style, and you can change it back and forth from time to distance. If you accidentally click on time and make it go away, that's how you would get there without being in flight. Some other things we could go over real quick are map layers. So if you have a Jeppesen subscription, you can click on the Jep VFR, and it makes a kind of a nice scalable VFR sectional. And the farther out you are, the more information it is, the closer in you go, the more it declutters. They have their own IFR version of it as well. You can click the street map. I'm having issues this morning too. Maybe it's just a bad technology day. I'm not sure what's going on. There we go. All right, so we have street map. So that would give you just a basic overlay of the streets and show you the main streets. Aerial map. Sometimes this doesn't work in flight with the because it doesn't have the images downloaded. And then you have your basic VFR sectional, your IFR one, and your IFR high if you're flying those jets. So if you are flying along and you like track up, which is something I'll show you real quick. If we click the settings button, you have north up, which is how it currently is, track up centered and track up forward. you can switch between these. Right now, it's not going to do anything for us because we're not in motion. But if you prefer having track up, which would mean the line is always straight vertical in front of you, the sectional text on it, for example, the VORs and everything else, does not switch to orient itself. You'd be looking at it sideways. So one way you can mitigate that and declutter, you wouldn't have the VFR chart, but you can tap the aeronautical box at the top. And that gives you all of the, oh, hold on one sec, I'll get rid of this and show you, it's easier. Over here on the side, it gives you options of what to show on the aeronautical chart. So for example, if I click this button here at the top, that's our airport buttons. So if I click that, it declutters the airports. If I click the next button down, it gets rid of the airspace and toggles that on and off. The next button down is our airways, gets rid of those. This button is our air traffic control frequencies. So right here, if you see the 127.8, I'd make that go away, come back. Another feature that's handy, if you look at the Class B airspace here, it has the distances of the ring, or the altitudes of the rings there. So if you tap this button over, actually that was the part of the airspace button. And then you can click the terrain button and it brings obstacles in and out of view. So if we look over here at our windmills at the Altamont Pass, actually what did, supposed to get rid of the terrain. And then we have our freeways. Oh, I'm sorry. For some reason, the aerial maps are, there we go. That's why it wasn't working. So that gets rid of our terrain contours and that gets rid of our roadways. So now 680 disappeared, 680 is back. So this gives you a nice decluttered view of what you're actually looking at. And the best part about this is no matter how you have the map oriented, everything turns to be right side up for you. The text turns, so you're not looking at it sideways. A lot of people like using this because you can simplify things and see the main features that you want to or don't want to by the tap of a button there. And you can declutter it. All right, so something else that's really cool that I learned about recently is being able to overlay custom maps. So let's say we have our VFR sectional up and we want to go down to Arizona and do some flight training. So Arizona is pretty cool and they have this website, the Arizona Flight Training Work Group. And you can kind of see a preview of what I'm doing or what I'm getting at here. And they made a map in Google Maps or whatever in a KMZ or KML file that you can download and overlay on your sectional. So if you go down here, they give you a direct link here, but you could use any file, but we're just going to download theirs real quick. Click download. Then up here on the right, we have our download button. So we can click that. And then we just tap on the download. And it doesn't look very exciting yet, but in the top right corner, we have a square box with an arrow. You can tap that. And then you'll notice ForeFlight comes up as an option to send it to. So we just click ForeFlight, send it over to ForeFlight, and now it asks us where we want to put it. So we click custom content and then custom map layers. And it says it was saved. Okay. How do we get it? We go down to more and then custom content and then custom map layers over here. And then we tap on this. This gives us the information about it and we can click show on map. And from this page here, we can also click this button, which is the previous page, and click show on map. So we can just tap that. And now it overlays all of that information onto the map. And to explain what's going on here in Arizona, instead of getting flight following when you're doing training down here, you generally go to a frequency. So you can see they put the frequency as a waypoint here on the map at 12285. And you're basically on a CTAF talking to everybody here. And these points on the map help everybody determine where they're at. So you could say, you know, you're doing training between Renaissance Fleet and Cement Plan or blah, blah, blah. And in order to, if this is too much, too cluttered and you're not doing training that day, you're just flying in and out regularly, you can go up here to the map layers button, tap that, and you go all the way to the bottom. And this is our custom map layers. So you can see that file here. We can tap that and now the waypoints go away. We can tap it again and turn it back on and there they all are again. So this could be quite handy if you ahead of time you let's say you wanted to do an aerial tour of San Francisco or whatever. You can make a map similar to this with waypoints and overlay it on the city, and then you can import it to your iPad. So you have all those waypoints there, and they're easy to identify. So I thought that was really cool. This is obviously a very busy version of it, but the uses are endless. Let's see, what else do we have here? One of the other helpful things that I use is the track log. So over here on the left, you have the record button, and you can manually start recording by tapping that, or you can turn it off. And everybody might not see that. There's, you go to more down here, and then settings up at the top. And you have, it's down here, I believe, right here, track log, enable start stop control, which is that button on the side. So if I turn that off, you'll notice it went away. If I turn it on, it came back. And then if you enable auto start stop, ForeFlight does its best to estimate when you turned on the plane, started taxiing, and when you land and stopped at parking. It's usually accurate within like 0.1, 0.2. And it's nice because it will automatically drop the track log into your logbook if you have everything set up like that. And it saves your flight track and gives you times and all that. Let's see what else. With track logs, we can go over here to more down here, and then track logs here. And you can pick a track log, let's say this fun flight the other day that we did. And I had a request, I believe it was from Rod, to do the 3D debrief. So before we just went over this, so at the bottom you can hit the motion slider or the timeline slider, and it shows you fly along your route. And at the bottom down here, there's pitch and bank charts that give you the information here. And then there's, oops, I'm trying to use the computer to tap on the iPad, it's not working. And then you can also change it to altitude and speed to see those different ratios of your flight. The cool part that they added recently, I think it's only on certain plans, but if you hit 3D down here, it actually gives you a 3D version of your taxiing. We can zoom in a little bit too. And then when you take off, you can actually see your ascent and descent profiles, traveling along, doing your circles, entering your traffic patterns, and you can kind of debrief your flight like that. So that's something that's cool as well that they just recently put in there. Another thing you can do if you use Cloud Ahoy, which is a whole nother webinar, but you can click on the top up here, and you can export it to two different things that are I think are cool and helpful. One, you can click ForeFlight.com. So let's say you have a passenger that goes with you and you want to share the flight that you did that day with them. You can tap that and it brings it up here on the map. It shows you all the information about the route, and you can actually share that link with anybody you want to show them what you did flying that day. And then if we go back over here, we can also send it to Cloud Ahoy. And I actually already sent this over there. So let me, no, we'll just do it. So you can click Open KML in, and then you scroll over to more, and then you go down to Cloud Ahoy. And so it imports the flight. And if you guys haven't tried this, I believe they give you a free trial. I highly recommend it, especially if you're a CFI. It's really cool to be able to go in here and debrief your flights. So let's say this one at the top is where we imported, and you just click the debrief button, and it gives you a more in-depth debriefing than ForeFlight will do. And it gives you your original route is the purple line there. You can turn all this stuff on and off on the left. That's the intended flight plan. So I can shut that off and you'll just see the route. And it actually breaks it down by chunk. So if I click my taxi back, it will take me over there and show me that chunk. If I click left down spiral, it will take me over there and show me that chunk. So that's a pretty cool app too, just food for thought, something else to explore. One of the other really neat things that they came out with, this is a brand new feature, and this is, I think, is extremely helpful. We go back to our main page. Let's say we want to look at Concord because we're all familiar with Concord. We can tap on Concord here, or we can go down to airports, however you want to get there. If you have the plan that includes 3D views, let's see, Concord, you can click the 3D view button. And this we actually did go over last time with the view of the airport. You can click on the runway up here, which gives you the approach view of that runway. So you can see the terrain, what it looks like on the approach. But what the new feature that they just added with, you look down here, you see now a moon. So now you can tap on that, and now it gives you what the airport looks like with all the approach lighting systems, the runway lighting systems, etc. So if we go to an airport like SFO, you can actually see the approach light systems animated with the little jumping bunnies, or rabbits as they call it. You can see your center line lights, all that stuff. So this is absolutely wonderful. If you're going to go into an airport at night for the first time, you can see exactly what your approach is going to look like, and from whatever runway that you choose. And it said on the website that most runways in the world were supported by this. I have not had the time to test that, but I encourage you to. One of the last things that I want to show you guys today, because I think we're running out of time pretty rapidly, I'll maybe try to throw a few more things in depending on what Rod or Rich says and yell at me, but is ForeFlight Passenger. So this is a cool thing that you can do, kind of like I was showing with the VFR traffic patterns. It gives your passengers, kids, whoever, a way to view the flight, and they're not touching your iPad with the actual version of ForeFlight on it to screw up your flight planning or anything like that, but it lets them monitor the flight, very similar to how they have it in the airliners. So if you go down here to the bottom right and you click More, there's a passenger button here. And we'll get into downloading passenger in just a second, but you click that. Basically, it says it's a companion app, and you can click Start Sending Route. So as long as you and the other iPad are on the same Wi-Fi network, which would be your Stratus or your, I forget what the other one is called, the ForeFlight one, Sentry, or your avionics, it will work and send the route to them. So we'll close that for a second. We'll go over to the App Store. So of course it's going to delete it for me. So you just type in passenger here. And that's what it looks like in the top left. So you just download that. And this is what it looks like. So it gives you a very rudimentary map, nothing complicated about it. And over on the top right, it gives you the flight information. So what I'm going to do is start on my phone's ForeFlight route to share with passengers, so you can see it, how it looks for the passenger app. So I'm going to share. Actually, let me show you how you do that first. So you go to ForeFlight. In the top where your flight plan is, click that. And there's no flight plan. Hold on one sec. So you see this box here with the sharing arrow. You can tap that, and down here you see passenger. So that's how you would send the route to passenger. So now I'll go back to passenger and do the same thing from my iPhone so you guys can see how it looks there. So I put in a route from Concord to Reno, and instantly it sent it over. They can see where we're at. They can see the purple leg is the leg you're on, and the other legs are to follow. And they can see the whole route is planned. And then you have in the top right corner, like I said, the stats of the flight. In the bottom right, you can tap the little crosshairs. Oops, hold on. Down here. And that centers the map on the GPS location. If you hit the little gearbox, that gives the option to figure out which iPad or device the plan is coming from. And they can choose what units they want to view it in. And that's really it. So it's just a nice, simple version for them to be able to track the flight and keep them occupied. And I think we have a few extra minutes. So the last thing I'll show you is the logbook reporting features, which I find extremely handy.
Yeah, Ryan, don't forget to leave time for questions.
Yep, I'm just, this will take about 3 minutes. I'm not going to go into super detail, but let's click on logbook. And this is a flight that I did last night to get my night currency. So we will just tap there. Like I said, it automatically records it for me and dumps it into the logbook. So this gives you a good example. And then I just come down here. I can make sure the total time is accurate. This was a daytime flight out there, but normally you'd see the night there. So we'll just approve this one real quick. And then this is the one where the actual night stuff was. And you can have ForeFlight automatically calculate your nighttime. So if you look down here, they base off of the official source how much nighttime you should actually get, and then you can put in your landings, and it does that as well for you, the night takeoffs, night landings, etc. It's not always accurate. All three of those were at night, but it gives you a good place to start. So we can click approve on there. On the left here, it shows all of our currencies. So you can set up currencies down here by clicking add currency, and it brings up, I'll let you guys play with it due to time, but you can bring up your like airplane single engine land currency, and it tells you how many takeoffs you've done in the last 90 days. And then down here, it says what entries are affecting the currency. So you can click there, down here, and it shows you all the entries that affect your currency. And then there's entries beneath that that said not affecting the currency. So those are within the last 90 days, but aren't the most recent. You can also do it with your medical. If you put your medical in when you got it and what class it is, it calculates that for you, and any other stuff. So just explore that. It's really helpful. If you set up the logbook right, you can click on reports. And one of the features that I like the best is the experience report. So this shows you the certificates that you have, all the different types of airplanes that you've flown, the time broken down on all of them, category, class, simulator time, and then you can make custom fields at the bottom. ForeFlight logs landings weird, so I just do my my landings calculated down there. But you can have a bunch of other fields too, and it all shows up here and by airplane. So that's really neat. The other thing you can do is the 8710 report right here. So if you're filling out an IACRA application, all the information is already filled out for you if you set up your logbook right and made sure it's all the numbers are accurate. In IACRA, it flips the two axes of the stuff on the left is actually on the top and the stuff on the top is on the left, so it's kind of confusing. But all the information is still there. You just need to make sure it's in the right spot. If you're going for a rating, ForeFlight logbook will track all of your progress for that rating as long as you log it right. So you can see your progress. And then you can also do a digital version of your logbook complete with signatures by just tapping this, and you can either save it as a PDF or you can print it, and it gives you, would be the left page of the logbook, and that's the right page of the logbook. It's in 2 chunks. You can also click a condensed 1-page version, and it takes off the landings and whatnot, but it still gives you the key information that you're looking for as far as your flights. And the last thing I'll show you, without going into detail, is on the last presentation, we went over setting up an aircraft. If we click on the more thing and then go over here to aircraft, that was for our performance profiles and for our filing flight plans. So the logbook has its own aircraft category. When you set up an aircraft in your logbook, it gives you different set of circumstances. So your tail number, the year, the make, model, the type code is important. That's what it lists on your experience report, the gear type, engine type, and what other categories it is. So this helps classify everything, and you can add photos of your plane and then see all the entries at a glance where you've flown that plane. So pretty helpful as well. So just make sure you set up the aircraft properly in there for tracking. And last but not least, you have qualifications, and you can do all your endorsements. So let's say for a solo cross-country flight, I copied that over, and then in the bottom, you can put a photo of it in there, so it's saved. So everything is backed up, and you don't lose it. I'd obviously recommend scanning your logbook, but it doesn't hurt to have it this way either, so you can see everything at a glance. So with that, I will open it up for questions. And I think we accomplished Look at that, 41 seconds to go. So everything we wanted to. So anybody have any questions?
Well, I'll start out. First of all, Rod, how's the bandwidth now on the audio?
It was good for you.
Okay, Ryan, and in the two presentations, did we ever get to Glide Advisor?
No, I don't think we did. So
Yeah, would you? I think that's really important
Yeah,
to a lot
I
of
agree.
guys because we worry about engine outs, and I don't know if you can demonstrate it without being in the air,
I
but it's
can't.
extremely valuable.
Yeah, I can't, and that's probably one of the reasons I didn't think about it is because it doesn't show up on the
Timer has
ground.
expired.
So if we go to more and then settings, let me see.
It's under map settings.
Oh, is it? Okay. I was gonna say I haven't done that in a while. It's just on for me. So this one up here, right?
Yeah.
And then we go down to Glide Advisor here.
Right.
So that could be on or off. And you may have seen it before, either on yours or somebody else's, but it looks like a green blob, like they call it the amoeba, and it constantly shifts as the terrain shifts. So if you're going towards a mountain, it will look flat in front of you because if your engine dies, then you're not going to have very far to glide forward. It would be more round behind you towards the valley if you were coming from lower terrain, indicating that you would be able to glide further to the rear. So if you notice here, it says glide setting. You can choose the airplane that you want of all the aircraft that you've set up. And when you set up those aircraft, you put in the glides. So every time every time you're flying, like I showed you with the two-finger ruler, it takes your airplane, or this is specifically for the glide setting, but it automatically puts it in the glide setting for whatever plane you have in the flight plan up here. And then it will give you your little green amoeba. So try that out. Like Rich was saying, I can't demonstrate it for you because I can't run that fast at my computer and jump that high. So it's not going to show us anything, but it's very helpful.
Yeah, and there's a very good video of it that ForeFlight has produced that you can go look at because it will constantly monitor based on your altitude and the terrain around you. It will constantly shift a green ring, as you said, Ryan, so that you always know what direction you should be going if you're in trouble and what the probabilities are that you'll be able to land within that green ring. So,
yeah, so if you look, if you go to ForeFlight support and then video library, this is something else I wanted to show you guys too. This is a great spot to learn. Like what we're doing is just barely touching the tip of the iceberg on a lot of this stuff. And there's so many things that ForeFlight puts out. And actually right there, look at that, Glide Advisor, highest rated video. So that's what it looks like, the green amoeba. And
we have your picture. We don't have Glide Advisor up.
My face is what you're seeing?
Yes.
It's on the shared screen. So
oh, okay.
I can
Rod
see
can
it.
highlight that or make me go away. You guys see my iPad now?
I see it.
both.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
So yeah, if you see there on the website, it has the Glide Advisor video. So that's what it looks like. As you're flying through this terrain, it's constantly changing. If you notice on the right side here, it's much larger. And right here where the mountains are higher, it's a closer diameter to your airplane. So it says, you know, what approximate distance you have as you go. So I would highly recommend browsing their videos. They also have a YouTube channel where a lot of stuff comes out. There's a ton of stuff that you can find online. And if you look up at the top, there's getting started. So you can click that and it takes you to a chunk where it's like it's crazy. The main features, and then you can go pre-flight and it tells you that. So just play around with it. There's nothing that you can touch on ForeFlight that's going to, you know, make the whole program turn your iPad into a paperweight or anything. So just, you know, tap buttons. If you're nervous about stuff, write down what changes you're doing or what buttons you're tapping. And then that way, when you're done, you can bring it back to where you started. But, you know, I highly encourage to practice on the ground and just tap things and explore. So anything else?
I've got a traffic question.
Yeah.
Is there a way to get rid of the irrelevant traffic, you know, that's too high or too low?
There is. So on your, I think it's on map settings on this one, you click the year and you come down here to, actually it's in, It's
So
in
their settings.
Yeah, it's in more. So you click on the more button down here and then settings. That's another thing. I never remember which settings panel it's you need to go to for anything. Let's see, it's under traffic. We just have to find that. There we go. So right here it says hide distant ADS-B traffic, and you can turn that on or off. So if you turn it on, it's going to, I don't remember what the parameters are, but traffic that's X amount above you and laterally to the side of you, it's going to hide from view.
Great. And I got one other terrain question. Does it show, or can you make it show the red and yellow terrain like the GTN 750 above your altitude?
I think when you're flying, it does it. But in your map view here,
Hazard warning.
yep, there it is, hazard advisor. So you would tap that, and it would do similar to what you're talking about.
Thank you.
But it's not going to show it for us because I'm sitting on the ground.
Okay,
And then
Bob talked
also,
about.
if you have the artificial terrain on, you can see it. It kind of does that as well. And I think we went over that last time. So if you're 100 feet, if the terrain is within 100 feet of you, or you're below the terrain, it's red. You can zoom in out here and see that there's yellow. So that means it's 100 to 1,000, I believe. And then green means you're above 1,000. And you can set all those parameters too, but that's the standard.
Did you have a question?
I have a question, Bob Tuckott. I know what the disadvantages are for adding the JEP program to the ForeFlight, and that's the cost of the subscription. What are the advantages?
I think the majority of people like the consistency of it. I want to say more the professional pilot group, because Jepessen does charts all over the world, and that I can't remember the guy's name that I think it was Maurice invited, the ATP guy, but he could probably pitch in on this. But it gives you consistency in charts, and I think they're organized a little bit better. I think they're easier to read. Like you saw when I went to the airport page, it gave you the minimums, the alternate minimums right there on the page. I think it gives you some features that the FAA ones don't, and it's a little less confusing. I use them both because if you look at the Jepessen one, it's going to show you some things that the FAA doesn't, or in a certain way. Some are easier to decipher, like the FAA has some features that are easier to decipher than the JEP ones. So I think neither one is like the perfect answer, but using them both together is great, and it gives you some consistency.
Thank you.
Any last questions for Ryan here? Okay, Stu Schuster on board right now.
You muted.
Stu Schuster. Rod, is he showing?
Looking.
He's there. He's
not.
just trying to get unmuted, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I wanted to know if you would take a minute to please preview everybody about next month's presentation.
All right, well, before I do that, I want to remind everybody that there will not be a meeting in July and August. So next month is our last meeting before summer break. And for the next meeting, we're going to have several of us on the board will sort of be leading a panel on favorite destinations and restaurants and things we like to do on those locations, you know, maybe even favorite overnight trips. But this would be also audience participation. We'd like you to come and think about and talk about some of yours as well. So we'll kickstart it and then we'll moderate it. We'll also talk about the book on Western destinations. I think it's 50 favorite Western destinations, something like that. Somebody might have to correct the exact title, but there's a book that's been published that highlights a lot of great information. So I think it'll be a fun audience participation and discussion. And that'll be our final one before the fall break. If people have ideas of things that they would like to see when we convene again in September, that would be wonderful. I don't know where we stand on the potential of meeting again in person. We'll have to send information out on that for September. But hope everybody joins us for next month. The date on that is June 5th.
Great. Okay. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the order? We want to thank Ryan for plowing us through an enormously resource-rich program here. And it just barely scrapes the surface, but clearly the presentation gave us a profile here we can all benefit from.
Rich, Chet
yeah.
Robinson.
Yeah, Chet.
Any word when we could start meeting together again in person?
Well, this one is a real fun one. I went and talked to Judy at the offices, and at that moment, she was going through the litany that comes from the county risk manager that was given to them about all the business about having to do deep cleanings and all this kind of stuff. And now we've got, obviously that's been contradicted by a bunch of the changes in CDC rulings. So we're going to have a board meeting on Tuesday, and before then, I'm going right back to Judy and to Keith to get this thing lightened up, because we clearly are out of step in terms of the current broad thinking on this.
Bob Chuck on. I have a suggestion. We don't have to meet at the clubhouse. We could maybe make arrangements with some restaurant where we could have an outdoor barbecue, or some meeting in their meeting room, inside or outside, and at least we'd get going so we can start seeing each other while we're all still alive.
At the very minimum, Bob Thompson has offered up the big hangar at PSA for us to use for a get together in September, a joint barbecue get together with EAA. So that one, I think we can make happen. If the hang up is the clubhouse, but it's not the Bob, as you pointed out, it's important to get together. And so we at least have that.
Well, Rich, Tom Hammett, we could also possibly have a breakfast meeting outside the clubhouse and figure out, some way to get the food there if we can't use the kitchen. But, different people can make the eggs, the side meats, and bring them all in, and then we'd be outside just in that courtyard space.
Well, when we're negotiating with Judy on Monday, I'm definitely going to put it on the table. Everybody's getting anxious for good reason. Anybody else got anything? Okay, I guess not. All right, well, we will see you in June. And if we get some motion from the county, we'll put out a special email to let everybody know about the clubhouse. Was somebody saying something there? No, I guess not. Rod, is there anything on the technical end you want to add?
Nope.
Okay, great. All right, everybody, thanks for joining. And once again, thanks again to Ryan for taking us on a long ride here today. Much appreciated. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. And